I want to thank you for checking out another podcast of We Ain't Scared Talk, where we ain't scared. As usual, on this podcast, as I've said before, we're going to be talking about any and everything, no matter what. They say don't talk about religion, politics, money, whatever they say not to talk about, we will be discussing. Now, on this particular podcast today, I'm going to really take my time. I wrote out some extensive notes as usual, but this particular topic really deserves a great deal of time and attention. So much so that I've stated on previous podcasts that sometimes language or cursing, there are moments in time where that is something that will happen on this show. And so this is that show. And it's not something that is just arbitrary, even though when you hear the topic, it could be categorized as such, that for no reasonable reason you could end up using language. But to put things in perspective, just understand that if you do have children, you're in a car, you're at home, you might want to ask them, that's not even might, you will want to either turn this off or put on some earbuds or just ask them to leave the room, because this is going to get very, very intense and it's long overdue for that to happen. So, the other qualifying statement or clarifying statement that I need to make is that this podcast is strictly for black men, by a black men. I know I broadcasted or put it out to the world to listen, but understand that my ultimate objective is, because we have no real place to go where our thoughts and ideas are encouraged or welcomed, this podcast is that particular forum or place where that can happen. As usual, I'll be sipping on my coffee, so if I pause every now and again, you'll know why. And as I said earlier, lots and lots and lots and lots of notes. So you will hear paper shuffling. Now to finalize that thought of this being for black men by black men, I know that that's not going to stop non-black people from listening. As a matter of fact, they will want to listen even more so, because I have stated that this is a podcast for black men. So if you are a non-black person and you are listening to this and you hear something that makes you uncomfortable, that's your fault. It's supposed to, because again, this ain't for you. But because I know you're going to listen, you'll learn something as well. All right, so we know there's going to be language. And if you, again, have virgin ears or small children, escort them out of the room. Now, I was inspired to write this podcast, or this particular podcast, as I was driving to work about a couple of weeks ago. I was thinking about all the things that plague black men, and the list is voluminous, to say the least. And essentially how much time some of us spend as black men talking around the topic of black male liberation from an oppressive society, or by an oppressive society. How do we work through that, get away from this oppressiveness? All right. I mean, we'll distract ourselves as black men. You go to the barbershop, right? Or a place of work or business, and we'll talk about women. We'll talk about sports. We'll talk about entertainment. We'll talk about everything except what I feel like we really should be. And it's to our own detriment. You know, it appears that we, black men, are never in an environment where we, black men, have permission to just talk and be angry about how the world treats us and views us. So, in light of that fact, the name of this podcast is Dear Black Men. You have a right to be angry. Again, dear black men, you have a right to be angry. Have you ever thought about that without apologizing? Right? Have you ever thought about that without apologizing? Or being paranoid about how uncomfortable you may feel about that reality? Like, have you thought to yourself, black man, without apologizing or being paranoid, that it's okay and you have a right to be angry? We use the Bible or other things to cope or assuage the pain. But in the end, we just need to be angry. Seriously, allow that anger to wash over us and allow ourselves time to process why we're angry. Stop avoiding your own mental and spiritual healing. As I was writing this, I thought about the 7 stages of grief. This is a psychological, therapeutic sort of, it's a chart that helps to identify when someone has suffered something traumatic, emotionally distressful, or distressing, that they go through these stages. And they are, number 1, shock and denial. Number 2 is pain and guilt. Number 3 is anger and bargaining. Number 4 is depression. Number 5 is the upward turn. You start to get your second wind, for lack of a better description. Number 6, reconstruction. So you're rebuilding. And then number 7 is acceptance and hope. All right, so you believe things are going to get better, you've accepted your new reality, and you're hopeful for a better present and future. Now, based on the 400 years and counting of trauma, all right, 250 something years of chattel slavery and another 100 or so years of a combination of Jim Crow, segregation, redlining, legal and political hostilities, law enforcement, police brutality, and so on and so forth, black people have never had an opportunity to process their grief. They want us to jump right over anger, and they want us to just go to acceptance and hope. They don't want us to be angry. They don't want us to be depressed. They don't want us to have any hope. They don't want us to get our second wind. Why? Why are black men pressured into skipping and avoiding anger when everybody else has a right to it? Everybody else in the world has a right to be angry. Yes, you dear, wonderful, intelligent, and creative black man, you have a right to be angry at the world and everything in it, because it was the world that took and continues to assault you. Examples of that most people don't even talk about, aside from the transatlantic slave trade, which is how I got here, my ancestors got here. King Leopold II, stormed into Africa, killed 15 to 20 million Africans because he was trying to exterminate them, cut off hands of young children because they couldn't or did not meet their quote or their what they were responsible for in terms of poundage for rubber or whatever agricultural need was happening at the time. Because they couldn't meet that, whatever the goal was, okay, you need to bring in 5 pounds a day, or 4 pounds, or 15 or 20 pounds a day of this particular product, he would cut off their hand. And there's even a chocolatier that specializes in chocolate-shaped hands as a nod to this foolishness. And people eat this chocolate shaped like black hands as a delicacy. This is a fact. Nobody talks about it. And King Leopold has statues all over, I believe, Belgium. And he's celebrated. And I'm not saying this for shock value. This is something when I really think about why I'm surprised just an all-out national movement of anger has not happened yet. And I really feel like, and I'll get more into this, that we have been brainwashed into loving our oppressors, right? That we've been brainwashed into being abused, accepting the abuse as, well, that's just the way it is. And you just have to forgive them. You just have to love them. And not giving ourselves a chance to process our grief. We skip right over anger. And they want us to jump right into acceptance and hope. You can't heal that way. Again, it's been hundreds of years that black men have been stolen, abused, castrated, embarrassed, humiliated, raped, robbed, all for the enjoyment and the enrichment of people that did not and do not have our best interest at heart. All the while, enduring the physical and emotional pain, again, you were never given permission to just be angry. And why? We know why. Because we know if we were given permission to be angry, there'd be a lot of dead white folks. Period. There'd be a lot of dead white folks. And under the circumstances, who could argue that? We went to war because Bush said that Saddam Hussein threatened his father. I know it was weapons of mass destruction, but the truth of the matter is, the younger Bush was upset that this dictator threatened the life of his dad. That was it. And you're telling me a threat is somehow now that was worthy of the highest price to be paid, death. They sought this man out, pulled him from underground, put him on trial, and they hung this man over a threat. How much more deserving are white folks that did what they did to us? How much more deserving are they to something like that? How much more? It couldn't be any less. You're going to invade a country over a threat to your daddy. Have you ever thought about that, black man? If you had to suppress so much pain and then just move forward. You had to ignore so much disrespect by non-black people. So I'm not just saying it's just white. Disrespect by white folks has led to other non-black people feeling like it's okay for them to do the same thing. But you were just expected to move forward. You had to endure seeing your mother, sister, daughters raped and humiliated by non-black people. And again, just keep moving. Just keep going. Just don't look back. Don't think about it. Just keep going. And nobody checked in on you. Nobody said they were sorry. Even to this day, nobody said they were sorry for the hate and the ignorance and the racism. Your ability to move forward despite these atrocities against your humanity You're human. Your humanity. You moving forward despite that by non-black people, but let's be honest, mainly white people. We're going to just call it what it is. I feel like there's an elephant in the room. White folks don't want to be told, white folks, you crazy. White folks don't want to hear you're a colonizer. White folks don't want to hear, oh, you know what? It's your fault. White folks don't want to be held accountable. And granted, there are some, but that doesn't take away from the majority. The majority of white folks don't want to hear what I'm saying. They don't want to hear it. And it will come with any reason not to hear it. But it don't mean you don't need to hear it. At least for me, you gon' hear it. America has caused untold mental and emotional scars that will never heal. Understand what I'm saying to you. After 400 years of ignoring a problem, a cancer, you're dead. It's never going to heal. So at the very least, black men, be fucking angry. And don't apologize for it. Be angry. This is a psychological term in terms of a process that you have to go through to heal. You have to. And when you skip steps, it comes out in other ways. You are hurting yourself when you are not angry at the very thing or person or people that caused you the trauma to begin with. You're hurting yourself. We're brainwashed into suffocating our own well-being in lieu of making sure that massa is okay. How horrifically demeaning. Again, white folks, they send their kids to therapy after their pet goldfish dies. A goldfish. So obviously they understand trauma. So why deny that same belief or relief to black people that you have tortured? You know, I can imagine, and just go with me for just a moment. You know, it's 400 years ago, and there's a black slave woman who recently suffered a miscarriage. And the baby that she was carrying was the result of rape by the white slave master. And the black male slave husband had to watch his black slave wife that was raped and impregnated by the white slave master clean herself up from the blood, from the miscarriage. And then go inside the big house and take care of sick massa. We sick today, boss? Who is completely unaware that the miscarriage just happened hours before. How does that affect the black male slave mind? How do you process that? I think about, was he hopeful that she'd have a successful birth and delivery? Or was he hoping secretly that that baby would never see the light of day because of the daily, constant reminder of where it came from? How do you get over that? How do you work through that? And then you got to comfort her through the pain regardless. And that's just one of thousands of examples of daily trauma and abuse at the hands of white slave masters that black men had to endure. Now, of course, this does not discount black women. Of course, we were in this thing together. Of course. But for the purposes of this podcast, you have to understand This is a black man talking to the pain of himself and other black men. So when I make these comments, please don't think that I'm not aware that black women endured and suffered similar trauma. But I'm just being focused here on this. We are focusing on the assault on the black male mind and body. And there's so many things America with 3 Ks has done to attack us for just living, just going about our daily routine. Listening to loud music at a gas station, dead, scared white man. Walking home from 7-Eleven with a snack Skittles, dead, scared white man. Wearing a hoodie, black man wearing a hoodie, scared white man. Driving a car with a white girl. Walk on the wrong side of the street. Talk trash after an NFL game. These are real things that have happened that have cost black men and women, but black men their lives or freedom. White men, look, you need to just stay home. If you are so damn scared, stay the fuck home. Seriously. Commute to work over a damn computer. And I don't even know why you're so damn scared anyway. We didn't do anything to you. You came over to Africa, stole, abducted, kidnapped, brought over to America, enslaved, and somehow you think you got more of a right to be afraid of us than we are of you. That takes a lot of damn nerve. If anybody should be on the side of being scared of somebody, it should have been us. But this speaks to the backwards insaneness to this whole thing. It's just absolutely ridiculous. All right. Now, all these things that have caused death or a lifetime of trauma, whereas, if this was any other group, and I said this earlier, these things would not be happening. These things would not be happening, and they would cause anger in any other circle. How could it not? Really? How could this unprocessed and unspoken anger not cause or lead to the issues and trauma, deep-seated trauma emotionally? There is a researcher, educator, author, and presenter. Her name is Dr. Joy, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, DeGruy. D is in Delta, E, G is in Golf, R-U-Y. Dr. Joy DeGruy. She's a PhD. And she has a series, it's a 4-part series on YouTube called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. All right, she has a book, but this is so intriguing. Post-traumatic slave syndrome, and it delves into the psychological sort of effects that all that slavery and everything that followed has on the black mind. And I encourage you, I can't get into it on this podcast, but please, if you really want to dig deeper into that, just go to YouTube. She has a lot of videos, and she strings it along, or together, I should say, very, very well. So I definitely encourage you to check that out. So getting back on topic here, using myself as an example, honestly, I was one of those black men that suppressed. Okay, turned the other cheek, ignored my own pain for years, all right, for most of my adult life. Why? Well, there's several reasons, but one, I'll be honest with you, religion played a big part in that. Now, I don't know if that is good or bad, right? I know that I can honestly say on the one hand, I guess it helped to relieve some of the pain, but it didn't address why it was there in the first place. I feel like forgiveness and just, trust God, believe God. I mean, it sounds great. And for some people, it works well. But I don't know if I'm thoroughly convinced that that is the best way for long-term healing. Let God work it out. And for some people it is, but I feel like until we start with dealing with our anger, how can that be the only or best answer? Right? Now, the other thought is I was afraid of being perceived as what? The angry black man. The black man that was blaming my plight and conditions on the past. Right? That's usually what, no matter who you talk to, black, white, those people that aren't woke, right? They will blame you for blaming the white man. Right? And when this is actually the truth. That's what's crazy. You need to blame the white man. It was the white man that did it. I mean, this is such a mind fuck. No. Don't blame who really did it. Just ignore it all and move on. 400 years. This has caused more pain and disenfranchisement of black men than any natural disaster, disease, or war. And think about it like this. I didn't ask to come here. My ancestors were stolen. I was forced into this life in this country. And then I'm forced to work side by side along with people that look like the very same people, white people, that raped and assaulted my ancestors. And I'm expected to just get along? All because you want to say it wasn't me? No, fuck that. And I mean that. Fuck that. We got a right to be angry. And then I gotta look for jobs when I should have reparations, which, these looking for jobs have me sitting across the table from a white man or a non-black man, and I got to control my rage and ignore my feelings of being furious because I'm smarter than you. Because I need a job. It's this struggle, seriously, that causes mental illness and stress every goddamn day. And relationship issues. You don't think that black men that were humiliated by white men and society don't have relationship problems? You took a man who had a wife, a slave that had a wife, a girlfriend, and you raped this man. You humiliated this man in front of his other black friends and family. And you don't think that's going to cause some long-term emotional and psychological effects? Fuck out of here. Be angry. And for the record, black man, you ain't got to like white people. I know they don't want to hear that. And some black people, oh my God, he said you don't have to like white people. You ain't got to like fucking white people. You ain't got to like white people. You are not obligated to like white people. I know they want you to like them because of their guilt. But see, they're not doing anything about the guilt. They just don't want you to be mad. They don't want you to be angry. Black man, you ain't got to like white people. You're not obligated to like white people. I had one employer tell me, well, you know what? I'm not here to be liked. You're not here to be liked. You're here to do a job. I'm not here to be your friend. You're not here to be my friend. I hired you to do a job. And you know what I thought to myself? You goddamn right. You're right. And it was at that moment, it was like, you know what? And I don't like you. And you don't like me. So I'm going to do my job, collect my money, and you stay the fuck out of my way. It was liberating. It was freeing because I think we honestly, as black people, black men, I really feel like we have to make non-black people feel so comfortable around us. We have to try to make them like us. For what? They don't give a damn. Why do we spend so much energy? And this is why I like stand-up comedians, right? Because having done that before in the past, it is a very freeing experience to stand up there, have a microphone, and to say whatever the fuck comes to your mind. Now, they'll be laughing about it, but still, it is the truth. And I don't want to get too far off. But you ain't got to like white people, black man. I think we've been brainwashed, like I said before, to be humble. Love your enemy. Turn the other cheek. That we've accepted that suffering without emotion and retribution is okay. Like, we're going to suffer, don't have any emotions about it. You're going to suffer, don't seek retribution. That's okay. And it's not. I'm no longer going to live a life where I will make a white person feel comfortable around me because of the suffering they caused me. So you trying to tell me I got to be careful about how you feel about some shit you did to me? Nah, fuck that. I'm not going to do it anymore ever again. Never again. If you can't handle it, that is your fucking problem. The shit that happened to me didn't happen to you. I don't expect you to understand. And I'm not apologizing for it. I will be angry and I will not apologize for it. That's what white folks need to hear. Now, most people that hear that, they're now all of a sudden, oh, I'm so scared, I'm so fearful. I don't give a damn. You need to be fearful. You can't abuse someone for centuries and then not expect that same person will not at some point wake up and decide, fuck you. If you do that to me again, I'm going to beat your ass. Point blank, period. Let me say that again. You cannot expect that the abused person that you have humiliated, degraded, and continue to disenfranchise for centuries, hundreds of years for those who don't know what that means, that those same people will not at some point wake up and say, fuck you. If you do that again, I'm going to beat your ass. So that you don't do it again. See, the reason why people continue to do shit to you is because there ain't no consequence. That's the same thing with bullies. Bullies push and push and push and push and push, and they choose people that they think they can get away with, and they push and push until one day they come face to face with somebody that's like, oh, okay, so you want them hands. Okay, let's go. And what's amazing is that most of the people listening right now, they may be more offended that I said, fuck you, and I'm going to beat your ass, than the abuse that was actually caused or done to black people in the first place. They're more offended that I said, fuck you, and I'm going to beat your ass if you come at me the wrong way, than the 400 years of abuse. How asinine is that? Well, I don't give a damn. You gonna get it straight today. Black men, you have a right and permission, not that you need it from me, but I'm gonna give it to you anyway, to be angry as fuck about your mistreatment in America with 3 Ks. This godforsaken country is not your friend. It never has been, and it never will be. We're just making it the best way we know how. You were brought here as cargo. Think about that. You were brought here as cargo, like livestock, and treated worse than a dog for hundreds of years and counting. And somehow, the same people that stole us, and brought us here, they want some sort of absolution from responsibility. I say, hell no, fuck that. I'm going to be angry. And whatever happens, happens. We ain't skipping no steps here in these 7 stages. We ain't skipping no steps. And black man, you're not crazy. You're not crazy for feeling how you feel. You are not odd or different or militant because you want to be angry at your enemy. Let what happened to us happen to anybody else in the world, and the world will run to their defense and aid. Hitler was proof of that. He's killing the Jews, and we're talking about a world war. Wasn't no world war for us. I'll say it again. You have a right to be angry, black man. And don't make excuses for why you aren't angry or why you chose to forgive your enemy. Look, everybody's got to make their own decision. I can't make you do anything, but it hurts my heart. Forgiveness is not some instantaneous magic pill that you swallow and then all is well. I feel like black people love Jesus so much that we don't even think for a moment that you can be angry and still love God. And I'm not trying to come off preachy. All right. Now, granted, I grew up in the church and I've seen all kinds of everything. Sometimes the church is worse than the world. I really believe that. I think black Christians have internalized their love of God so deeply that they think you can't be angry at white people and still love God. Like the two don't go together. Well, let me help you. Fuck that. I'm angry as fuck at white people and I still love God. Now, deal with it. Now, what's amazing to me is how we as black folks let white people off the hook of accountability because they appear uncomfortable. Oh, white fragility. Again, fuck that. I didn't enslave myself. They did. I didn't castrate and lynch myself. They did. My goal is to allow myself to absorb that truth and just be angry. And I'm not going to tell you what to do with your anger either. That's your anger. If you choose to pray, not pray, stomp, kick, shout, scream, or whatever, that's your anger to process the best way that you can. But after 400 plus years of oppression and depression, my words to you, black man, is be angry and process that anger the best way you can and stop making excuses. Or letting the statement by white people of, well, that was so many years ago and it wasn't me that did it. Fuck that. Didn't have to be you. It was your ancestors. And you're still benefiting from it. And the fact that you would even make such an insensitive comment like that tells me you haven't even accepted the reality that your great-great-great-granddaddy probably owned slaves. And even if he didn't, he probably participated in the same hate speech that was prevalent at the time. And just because your great-grandpappy never said he hated black people to you directly, again, at the time of the late 1800s and early 1900s, doesn't mean he didn't. Black men, be angry. Process your mental and emotional thoughts. Stop being concerned about how white people feel about your pain that they caused. But continue to disassociate, cognitive dissonance, I believe is what it's called. They distance themselves from their unresolved guilt. They need to feel guilty, whether it was them or not. Feeling guilty now will help you stop from doing something stupid. Guilt causes empathy and promotes understanding, or at least it should. When you run from guilt, you're running from facing and dealing with the reality that you and your ancestors, white people, were not and are not perfect. They were, are, and I'm going to throw this in there, whether you have a neo-Nazi in your family or 45 that's a white nationalist, and as far as I'm concerned, anybody that works in law enforcement, you were complete animals towards black men. Animals. And I hope you listen and re-listen to this podcast, black man. And I hope that you come to a conclusion that you can be angry without apology to anyone. Nobody has had to overcome the types of hurdles, barriers, obstacles, and racism that we have to overcome daily. So why the fuck would you allow their lack of understanding about those struggles dictate how you process your emotions or anger, justifiable anger, righteous indignation? Fight for yourself, fight for your dignity, and fight for your self-respect. Be angry until you are ready not to be angry, however long that takes, without apology. Just allow yourself the opportunity to be angry. All right, so we have a few questions, all right? A1, when you tell black men to be angry, what should they do with that anger? Whatever they want. I can't tell someone what or how to behave when they're upset, especially after 400 years of oppression. The goal, the exercise, is to encourage black men to be angry without concern for what non-black people think. Period. Okay, question number 2. Can well-meaning white people do anything to help? No. Just stay out of the way. You know, sometimes you get into an argument with your significant other, and it comes a point in that conversation or that argument where you just need space. Like, just don't talk to me. Just stay away. That's where we are. Just stay out of the way. You may have the best of intentions and truly want to understand and help, but this is something that black men need to process on our own or with other black men. Period. Question number 3. Is anger healthy? Hell yes. Anger is healthy. It's like any other emotion. Of course it's healthy. Again, the 7 stages of grief. And I'm not going to follow that up with, well, as long as it's dealt with in a productive and constructive manner. Fuck that. To me, that is code for as long as you don't tear shit up or attack white people. There's ulterior motives to that when it comes to black people. The truth is, again, I can't tell black men that have been tortured and humiliated how to deal with their anger. For me, I feel like black folks have already exercised tremendous restraint by not acting out violently up to now. So obviously, we're very good at controlling our anger around white folks. So whatever you need to do, you do it. But above all else, be angry without apology. We don't need to apologize for how we fucking feel. For 400 years, we did that in slavery. Oh, we sick. Oh, did I mess up, boss? Sorry, boss. Fuck that shit. Well, I know that was a lot. I know that was definitely a lot deeper than some people probably thought or expected that I would go. But listen to it again, black man. Listen to it again. Internalize. And I want to thank you for checking out another podcast of We Ain't Scared Talk. You got some good food for thought. My name is A1, and we ain't scared.